Okay, thank you for coming. This is the first and hopefully a series of agenda review meetings by the administration. The time is 3:09. This is scheduled as a public meeting. There are 4 commissioners present, and since it's scheduled as a public meeting, commissioners are authorized to speak in each other's presence at this meeting. Please, Clyde, did you open the back door? This is a publicly scheduled open meeting, and members of the public are authorized to be here and have been invited to be here. The purpose of this meeting is to, again, I've met with several commissioners, and what we are trying to do, what the administration is trying to do, is to make the regularly scheduled Monday meetings go as smoothly as possible. To that extent, given that the agendas go out the Tuesday or Wednesday before the meeting, the goal is to schedule meetings like this on Thursdays or Fridays as schedules permit in order to entertain questions from the commissioners. The requirements for attendance at these meetings right now, and hopefully this will probably be the requirement into the future, is that any director who has any item on the agenda is required to be here or to send an informed replacement. We hope to have answers for the commissioners at these meetings. However, if we do not have the answers, we hope to be able to provide them either the next Friday or the following Monday, so the commissioner has the information that's required for that Monday night's meeting.
I have legal question.
Yes, sir.
Meeting is public.
It's public.
It's no sunshine.
There's no sunshine by. You're okay with that?
No sunshine.
Yeah. Counsel?
You can go ahead and discuss any of the issues on the agenda, Commissioner. There is no sunshine violation because the requirements of the sunshine law are being met by a publicly noticed meeting.
And again, the commissioner's question, since he's not at the dais, the commissioner's question is whether there's a violation of sunshine by having commissioners present and speaking. And the response from the city attorney has been that there is no violation on the ground that this is a publicly noticed meeting to which members of the public have been invited. And just again for the record, the front door to the chambers, or principal door to the chambers, is open, and members of the public are authorized to come in, sit, and present questions themselves. So with that said, I would like to jump ahead on the agenda to the first item, which is item 10. This is a resolution of the City of Sweetwater supporting the implementation of Active Design Miami, design and policy strategies for healthier communities, as developed by the Miami Center for Architecture and Design. It does not identify on there who the person or the official was who placed this on there. I am assuming that is the mayor who placed, or the mayor's office. JC, please note that in the future all sponsors have to be identified on the agenda.
Yes, sir.
I've read through this. This is simply a statement, a resolution affirming smart design strategies for cities that will make healthier people. Robert, do you know anything about this? Or was
Yes,
it yours?
yes, this
okay.
was,
Do you want to come up and give a short presentation?
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question before you start?
Yes, sir.
Is the mayor attending or planning to attend this and future meetings?
This is, at this stage, the answer is no. The purpose of this meeting is for the administration to brief the elected officials, the commissioners, as a staff meeting. If you would like his attendance at these future meetings, I'm happy to go ahead and convey it to him.
Yeah, I would like that.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and convey it to him. Okay. And again, actually, if I could just go on. And again, Commissioner Borrero, one of the purposes of this meeting is hopefully to restart the relationship with the commission, and the idea to have the mayor not attend this meeting was actually mine, and the purpose of that was to tone down or depoliticize the aspect of it, just to make it a nuts and bolts thing. But I'll be happy to go ahead and pass this on.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I applaud you and the mayor's decision to start with hopefully a series of these. I think we need to have more much more communication.
Right, and again, the last 2 years have been very difficult for everybody, but I do understand the commissioner's point of view on many occasions when items get presented on a Monday night, and perhaps they didn't have the information that they needed. That's what this is for. The mayor did ask, or did suggest that he attend, and I'm the one who convinced him not to. But I'll go ahead and speak to him about it in the future. Okay? Robert.
All right. Good afternoon. The Miami Center for Architecture and Design received a federal grant to stimulate and promote more active cities through their design. Accordingly, we are going to do a partnership with them from which the city is going to receive technical help from architects and planners, et cetera, to see how our infrastructure can be more deliberately active. And again, this all comes from a federal grant that they received to promote more active communities in light of childhood obesity, of suburbanization, et cetera. This is, I put it in an email, this is Mayor Lopez and co-sponsored by Joniel Diaz, who likes technical aspects, codes, zoning, et cetera. So since he expressed that
It
interest.
doesn't say that on the agenda, by the way.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't say either one, but I'll make sure that they put it on there. I did convey it in an email, though. And so it's a partnership. It's warm and fluffy. We get free technical guidance, and it'll make the city a better place.
So, Robert, essentially, does this involve, planning for a more walkable city?
Yes.
Okay. So the answer for people who might be watching this on YouTube is yes, and the whole concept of of a walkable city, a healthier city, a more accessible city is actually also the concept behind the University City project, which is we have been pushing forward for several years. The whole idea is to have larger, taller buildings where people can walk back and forth, and shops on the first floor. Services offered to consumers. People are able to walk to and from different locales. So this resolution essentially goes hand in hand with the whole concept of the University City. I was neglectful on a moment before. I want to thank Commissioner Bourguignon for attending. Have not seen him for a while, and pleasure to have you here, sir. Staff item 11A is a resolution of the City of Sweetwater authorizing the reimbursement of Mayor Lopez's legal fees incurred as a result of his defense of the recall petition initiated by PEGFAR, providing legal authority, providing directions, and providing an effective date. The resolution spells out in detail the legal authority for the reimbursement. And essentially, the legal authority comes principally from the case of Hialeah, City of Hialeah versus Bennett, and Lumella versus City of Sunrise. There is specifically an opinion authored by the Attorney General, in Ray Charles Ian Nash, which finds that a municipal official, in this case a mayor's a municipal official, is entitled to be reimbursed for reasonable attorney's fees incurred by, in that case was a council member, and challenging and seeking declaratory relief against a recall petition which was based on action performed in the course of his legislative duties while serving as a municipal purpose. As everybody is aware, the sole grounds for the recall were based on the mayor's actions performed in the course of his official duties while serving a municipal purpose. In the mayor's opinion, this falls squarely within the Bennett case, entitling him to be reimbursed. As most people should be aware, this case was litigated in the 11th Circuit. It was appealed. The mayor won at the 11th Circuit, and the mayor won on appeal as well. The purpose of this is to essentially close this chapter and hopefully enable all parties in the city to transition into the next 2 years and hopefully a more tranquil atmosphere. Are there any questions?
How much is it?
The trial, I believe, was approximately $75,000 or $80,000. The appeal was $17,000. So you're looking at roughly $100,000. There are invoices submitted from trial counsel. I do not yet have the invoice submitted by appellate counsel. We hope to have it tomorrow or Monday, but roughly the figure of 100,000 is about accurate.
The city attorney, is there any are there any laws, any statutes in place that regulate how much you're able to reimburse?
The cases that apply, and I can get you copies of the cases. As I said, are City of Hialeah versus Bennett, Lamella versus Sunrise, and the Attorney General's opinion in Ray Charles Ian Nash. What it refers to is the standard that's used generally throughout the law, which is in any sort of legal case where attorney's fees are awarded, which is people are entitled to their reasonable attorney's fees. Reasonable attorney's fees are defined by a case from 1975, I believe, called Roe versus Patients Compensation Fund, in which there are multiple standards and multiple items used to identify what constitutes a reasonable fee. I can get you that case as well. It's rather lengthy and dry, but the standards are generally, the counsel that's been hired. Obviously, you're going to pay a reasonable fee for a lawyer out of law school is one thing. A reasonable fee for somebody like Kendall Coffey, who used to be a United States attorney, is a whole different matter. The results obtained, whether the party won or not, in this case, the mayor's counsel won at both levels. The experience of counsel in these matters. It's okay if you have a lawyer with 20 years, but if he's never handled a domestic relations matter, that's a different story. So these are the soft guidelines that were imposed by the Supreme Court in Florida Patients Compensation Fund versus Roe. I can get you that case as well. I can get you the 3 citations to authority on in the resolution. In fact, what I'll do is I'll prepare a package and email that to all the commissioners.
Okay.
Is that fine?
Yep.
Okay. Does anybody have any further questions on this, or should we move to that? Yes, sir.
Mr. City Attorney, what's your legal opinion?
Commissioner, frankly, I think that the resolution outlines a very strong argument for the mayor to recover for attorney's fees. And should the commission decide not to approve it, more than likely the mayor going to court and seeking the payment of those attorney's fees. If that results in if he has a successful result, which frankly he has a very strong argument on that matter, then the city would have to pay the attorney's fees that are mentioned in the resolution, inclusive also of attorney's fees that incurred in seeking basically that particular court decision. So you will more than likely anticipate additional attorney's fees if this is not approved and it goes to court.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay. So we are now at item 11B, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Sweetwater, Florida, authorizing the engagement of Garcia Menocal and Perez as special litigation counsel for the city and providing an effective date. This matter was placed on the agenda by the city attorney. Since the city attorney is here, I don't know if you wish to present any further elaboration on this.
The only thing to add is that by tomorrow, with the add-ons that will be placed on the agenda, there's also an engagement letter that kind of outlines the terms of that engagement. And as I've mentioned in the past, litigation, it's separate in my contract. It's a separate service, and in what the contract provides is that that litigation is to be a separate arrangement with me. Up until now, the litigation that I've handled has I have not billed us anything to the city. And as you know, we've been discussing a recent litigation that we made resolve, but litigation like that is protracted, that could take a while, and it could be very costly to defend, or even costly to prosecute if we find ourselves in that position. Frankly, I believe that the city needs to have an arrangement to deal with that litigation because it currently there isn't such arrangement. Now, frankly, the city can go ahead and enter that arrangement with me. I think that honestly, given everything that has been taking place, I think it's prudent to basically have this set up, and as any litigation arises, should it be something that cannot be disposed of rather quickly, because I will continue to deal with those. If it's something that involves protracted litigation, we need to have something in place to address that litigation, because currently there isn't such a thing. And just so you know, in this particular litigation that we were talking about, that hopefully will be resolved, we incur costs, and I'll say we, I'm talking about my firm, cost of almost $10,000. None of it has been billed to the city. None of it will be billed to the city. But that is the best example I can give you as to why this setup is necessary, because frankly, it will be impossible for me to go ahead and deal with protracted litigation and honestly having to worry about billing that separately, and also worrying about payment separately from my contractual fee. So I think that the best thing is to have experienced litigators on call as we need them, and they will be here Monday to answer any questions that you commissioners may have. And it's up to the commission, whether it's them or anybody else. We need to have a mechanism to deal with any protracted litigation.
Guillermo, who's recommending these attorneys?
I am.
And why them?
As a matter of fact, those are the folks that I personally have counseled to my firm, that I use to deal with the litigation. Specifically, Anthony Perez is an experienced litigator, and again, he will be here Monday to answer any questions and give you his own take as far as his experience as a litigator. And again, the commission does not have to follow my recommendation whatsoever. But irrespective of that, the city needs to have an arrangement to deal with litigation, whether it is with me or a separate law firm.
Are you an attorney on file with this?
I'm sorry?
Are you an attorney on staff with the organization?
No, I am not.
Okay.
No, that's a separate firm.
Okay.
We have collaborated. They collaborated with me on this issue. We have not had. We don't handle any cases together. In this litigation in particular,
Yeah.
I brought Tony. Now, full disclosure: at one point in time, we were all together, so I know them and I've worked with them. Okay, I've been on my own for a few years now, and again, I haven't had any dealings with them since in this particular case. But I brought them in for the case that you all know, for the litigation that we've been discussing. And frankly, whether it's them or anybody else, we need to have a way to deal with that litigation.
What do they charge per hour?
I have an engagement letter that I will be added to the package tomorrow, and I believe right now is $250. I'm working between now and tomorrow, honestly, to lower it. And it's a discounted rate from what they charge per hour. I'm looking to see if we can do better, honestly.
I have a question.
Yes.
Just for the record. $250 an hour is extremely cheap, so I appreciate that. But I think what Commissioner Borrero is trying to get at, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, is why aren't we putting this out to bid?
The city could, but in the meantime, we need to have something in place. Now, if in the meantime you want to have, for example, an arrangement with me, hey, let's hope that no specific litigation comes in that we have to deal with. But again, we didn't have an arrangement. Some litigation has popped up. I've handled that stuff. This one in particular require more work, require more time, and again, close to $10,000 have been billed that the city does not have to pay for it. Okay, and because of that, we need to have an arrangement. Could you put
No.
it out to bid? Absolutely. I'm just doing this because we need to have something, basically now, in case something pops up today, tomorrow. As a matter of fact, we just have another case filed in federal court this week. I'm gonna handle that because it should be disposed of rather easily.
Yeah, listen, I trust you implicitly. The only reason why I say it is just be extremely transparent.
No,
and
again,
I like the fact, I'm sorry to interrupt, and I like the fact that you're basically, presenting a ripcord, so to speak. If you pull the parachute pin, it doesn't work, you need a second one. And $250 is extremely cheap for litigators. I mean, you're talking about, industry standards $400 an hour.
But there is such a thing as municipal rates,
Right.
which are significantly lower than that. And that's what I'm telling you. I'm working to hopefully see whether that can even be reduced a little more. That's why you don't have in your packet right now
Right.
An engagement letter, because I wasn't completely satisfied with the 250, and I wanted to see if I could reduce it further.
That's good. Good faith on your part. Guillermo, would you kindly forward me a copy of your contract?
As soon as we deal with that one issue, definitely will be forwarded to everyone tomorrow with the add-ons. But to your point, Commissioner Villanueva, it does not have to be them. It does not have to be me.
somebody.
We
Mike,
have to have, exactly.
another concern, and I say this just in an abundance of caution, and excuse me if I'm a little ignorant on this, but does it seem prudent, and it's just a question, I'm not stating or alleging anything, that the city, or that you would be proposing entering into a contract with, between the city and this company, if you were, in fact, together with this company before?
Let me tell you
In
why
other
I'm
words, is there,
comfortable
in other words, is there a conflict of interest potential?
Let me put it to you this way. This is a question of expertise, basically. I am very familiar with them. I am not at this point affiliated with them. I was before. So again, I'm going to give you the full disclosure. And with that, and because I know how they work, that's the only reason why I'm telling you, hey, we need to have this here in place. And I'm telling you right off the bat, it doesn't have to be them, it doesn't have to be me. The commission picks whomever it wants. As far as a conflict of interest, I can simply bring in somebody that I'm fully familiar with, and I'm fully knowledgeable that they can go ahead and perform the work. That's why the recommendation is being made, essentially.
So
And
there
not
would
only
be
that,
there would be
because I
no
believe that I can
conflict.
secure even a better rate than the one that's already been offered.
So there would be no conflict of interest potential.
I honestly don't see one in that respect. You got to remember something. In the community, we, in the legal community, sometimes we work in some cases and projects together, sometimes against each other. And at this point, I'm simply bringing somebody that I'm familiar with, that I can work with, and can do the job. Fully telling the commission that you don't have to pick them. As a matter of fact, let me put it to you this way. If you were to pick me, I will use them through my office. So the setup is essentially the same. But for it not to be me, I'm suggesting to take me out of the equation and have a separate arrangement with them if you so choose them. If you choose me, the arrangement is with me. However, I'm telling you ahead of time that as for any protracted litigation that cannot be disposed of quickly, I will use them.
Okay.
Because those were the folks that I used for this one, and I believe they gave us a great result, and so that's my reasoning for that.
Thank you.
So it's the same result at the end of the day. I will use them if you pick me through my office.
I have a couple of points, Commissioner. First, 250 is about the going rate for municipal litigation. It's about what law firms, qualified, competent, experienced law firms charge municipalities for litigation. Perhaps Guillermo can get a better deal than that. We would certainly hope that would be the case, but 250 is a reasonable rate for that. Guillermo, would this engagement include any retroactive payment for Ramirez versus City of Sweetwater?
As I mentioned earlier, because that was the litigation that I was specifying, nothing has been billed to the city, and nothing will be billed to the city.
Thank
And
you.
that's the reason why. That's the reason why. I did that in good faith. But good faith is reciprocal, honestly, and I cannot continue to do that and wonder whether there's going to be payment of those fees, litigation fees in the future. And again, I know that we're all singing kumbaya and wanting to move on, but I want to go ahead, utilizing your terms, Commissioner, but I want to err on the side of caution. And I'd rather remove myself from the equation and have competent litigation counsel here, whomever the commission chooses, I am totally fine with. Under the code, I will be supervising. I supervise whatever outside counsel the city engages anyway. So I'm not completely removed from the equation. I still have a duty to supervise their work, regardless of who the commission chooses. So so I'm always in the mix. But I was choosing this particular structure more than anything to make sure that the compensation issue is not a problem that gets in the way of defending or even prosecuting litigation on behalf of the city.
Okay. Anything else, Ralph?
Did you lose any animals or small children?
Yeah, just trying to find out that. I'm good.
Okay. Just a couple of quick points. There are different models that are used for city attorneys and for municipalities. The model that Guillermo is proposing is a model, for example, that's used by the city of Coral Gables. The city of Coral Gables city attorney essentially acts as general counsel and supervises and farms out a lot of the work. This city has historically not done it that way. For the past 4 city attorneys have essentially handled the matters in-house. The commission can go either way on this. If the commission did wish to engage outside counsel, I personally would, and I think the mayor's suggestion at this point would be to bid the work out and receive receive multiple bids and resumes, and then interview them, bring them in for meetings and interview them, and at that point make a decision. Now, with that said, I have met one gentleman from the Garcia Menacall firm. Seemed like a very competent guy. I mean, I had no issues with that person, personally. With that attorney, he seemed competent, seemed knowledgeable, and so forth. The question as to whether to continue to employ the Sweetwater model or to move to the Coral Gables model is a policy decision really for the city commission to decide. And the question as to whether, if the city is going to move outside to the Coral Gables model, then whether to go with this firm or to go with outside counsel is, again, the commission's decision. I believe the mayor's position on this, since we've spoken, we understood this to be slightly different, but the mayor's position is that this should go out to bid. If the city commission wishes to engage to go towards the Coral Gables model, that the matter be placed out to bid. Commissioners, do you have any further questions? No? Okay.
Just one more point, Ralph.
Yes, sir.
Engaging outside counsel has not been an occurrence that has not happened in the city in the past. It has happened. So I understand the discussion of different models. However, there's been the engagement of outside counsel in different matters in the past. And we'll be able to, we can get additional information on that for you later. So I understand the discussion about models, but frankly, my concern is for the city to be covered if protracted litigation comes in, number one. My contract, which approved unanimously by the commission, signed by the mayor, basically stipulates that litigation is separate and apart, and it requires a different arrangement. So that's that arrangement, that model, if you will, was already approved by the commission when they approved that contract, essentially, because that's what's provided in the contract. And I am totally comfortable, should the commission want to put it out to bid, I am completely comfortable with that. Again, I just, for the sake of coverage, I was providing somebody. It doesn't have to be them, it doesn't have to be me.
Okay, the next item then is 11C. Resolution of the City Commission authorizing the mayor to execute a release and waiver agreement with Rafael Duarte regarding workers' compensation claim. Lorena, do you want to give an explanation to that?
Good afternoon. Pretty much Duarte had a workman's comp claim with us, and they already reached a settlement. He signed the waiver and release, which should be in your packet. So pretty much it's just having the mayor just approve, like, you know, what was released. and stuff.
I have a question.
So, okay.
Where's Duarte and what does he opine on all this? Is he disputing this? Does he have counsel? Is he
Well-
okay with this?
I haven't really spoken to Duarte. According to the release, which is in your packet, he signed off on the release, which means he approves on what's there. I'm not sure if he is coming on Monday. Again, I haven't spoken to him, but everything that's on here, he approved too. So signing it means he approved it.
Yeah, I mean, but Chief, have you spoken to him?
I haven't
I
talked to
mean,
him.
you and I have the same methodology as one of our cops, you know, we're gonna take care of our own, but I wanna make sure that he's good to go with this. That way there's no conflict later on.
Last I spoke to him, he was okay with everything. I haven't spoken to him in the last month, but this has all been an ongoing process that has been in negotiation back and forth directly with him and his counsel. So, I mean, I'd be surprised if he wasn't okay with it. I'd be more than happy to call him and find out and talk to him. I'll reach out to him
I'll reach out to him today. Just to,
He signed the settlement document.
yeah, just,
Yeah.
listen,
just to make sure I get it. I'll call. I'll give him a call.
it's just one of those cop things.
I'll give him a call.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question. Basically, this is for the workers' comp just to close out the case.
Exactly.
That's what we're looking at.
Correct.
Because everything has been said, everything has been agreed to it.
Yes, the
Right.
city
Just to
doesn't-
close it out.
Exactly. Any
That's what I
legal fees
understood.
and stuff, the city doesn't own anything. Florida League of Cities already took responsibility for that, and that should also be in your packet.
Oh.
It's just to
It's
put everything
just-
behind us. This is
exactly.
pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yes.
what I
Yeah.
figured was gonna be, just to
Yes.
close it out.
So we're not paying anything here?
No,
Okay.
Lorena, has there been what's called a washout hearing?
I'm not really too sure.
Okay, well, generally, there's what's called a washout hearing in comp matters, and then there's a settlement that's reached afterwards. And I believe that this is the end result of that washout hearing.
That's the settlement of the washout.
Right, it's just a settlement washout hearing, this is it. There's
So if a year from now, he has complications, God forbid, can he come back and make another claim? Which I believe he's entitled to.
Counsel?
All of those matters are covered by this settlement. All of that is covered by this settlement. Our carrier essentially is the one assuming responsibility and liability for the injury and medical care.
So a year from now, God forbid, something happens, because he just had an incident, and he suffered basically third-degree burns. My feeling, and I wasn't there. I think it happened.
While on duty?
No, at home. But the thing is that what occurred.
But remember, this is a workman comp.
No, I'm aware. Let me get my words out here. Based on what's happening to him, and I do believe he's not the same Ralph Duarte that I knew, who was high speed, low drag, go and get him. He is not the same. And the last thing that I want to do is just cut the umbilical cord and bon voyage. I want to make sure that whatever it is that we do as a family, if tomorrow, God forbid, something happens based on one of his injuries, that he is going to be taken care of medically. Is that in
Well,
the agreement?
Let me tell you the following. The city commission previously approved medical insurance for Officer Duarte until he reaches, I think, Medicare age.
I remember.
Okay, so he would have medical coverage. I know that some questions have come up, and administration is raising those questions, and I'm reviewing that currently. I have not been. I got the question today. I'm reviewing that, and we'll be providing an answer as soon as I take a look at those matters. But as of now, he has medical coverage until he.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to interrupt. Medical coverage is not the question, because there's a premium, there's a cap on certain medical coverage when it comes to insurance. I'm talking about workers' comp.
Workman's comp.
And let me just get my words out, Chief, I'm sorry. When whatever it is that occurs, God forbid that it does occur, I want to make sure he's taken care of, not with medical insurance, through workers' comp.
Yes.
He will be covered for those medical matters that stem from this workman comp claim. He would be. Now, let me do the following. Let me go back and review the agreement in more specificity to address your question. But the workman comp claim, it's specific to a set of incidents.
Right.
Or incident.
Right, anything stemming from the original
Exactly.
incident. The reason why I say it is
Exactly.
I have seen a carrier dump somebody and tell them, we no longer want to insure you. And there's nothing that we can do as an organization to stop that. So yes, the commission did vote, and yes, the commission did give him insurance for life, and I applaud the previous commission for doing that, everybody that voted on it, because he's a cop and we're going to take care of our own. But in the event that a carrier decides to dump somebody, which they have in the past, I want to make sure, this is why I'm stressing it, so now everybody understands why I'm talking, that workers' comp, if anything arises from the original incident, from the original injury, which at this point I believe he has trauma.
Commissioner, I'm going to look at the agreement in more specificity. But what I can tell you is, he was represented by counsel for this claim. A settlement has been reached, and anything that the carrier does that is in violation of that settlement, I'm more than sure that he will go ahead and seek whatever legal remedies are available to him. But just like in any settlement, you forgo certain rights and you obtain certain rights.
Right.
So in any case, I believe all those things will be covered by that settlement one way or the other, but I'm going to go ahead and look at it again to answer your question in greater specificity.
Thank you.
Just so it's clear, we welcome the city attorney's input on this. However, the position of the administration is and remains that the agreement should be ratified, should be adopted and approved by the city commission, just to close the matter out.
And just to add to what Ralph is saying, but essentially the action that the commission is taking here is basically a rubber stamp. It's just saying, okay, we don't have any objections to the agreement that our carrier and Officer Duarte have reached. We're only saying it's not ministerial per se, but it's basically a rubber stamp on what they have already agreed to.
That's actually an excellent point, yes. All right, any further questions on the Duarte matter? Nope. Okay. Then we move forward to a resolution of the City Commission authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with S&I companies, authorizing the expenditure of funds, providing an effective date. This is the second or third time that this matter has been carried over and presented to the City Commission. Again, we've had a lot of difficulty finding qualified candidates for some positions, including some director positions. Engaging with S&I. S&I is essentially a headhunter. They're an executive search firm. They would provide candidates. The candidates would be vetted through the City Commission. If they're appointed, they can be done on an interim basis until we determine whether we like the person or not. If the person's here for after, I believe, 90 days, then at that point the city owes 20% of the salary as a finder's fee. This is the solution that the mayor's office has entertained at this point as a result of the inability to fill certain positions with qualified candidates. Are there any questions? Yes, sir. No questions?
So basically, this is going to take 20% of 90 grand paid to SNI, and then
Yes.
the finance director remains with the rest.
Exactly. That is it's a standard finder's fee, and it's used pretty much to find qualified higher level employees. Like I said, we just recently got a very interesting application, but not for that position, but a person who's possibly very qualified for it. But generally, the applications we've gotten for the finance director's position have been grossly inadequate, and such that we haven't even extended any interviews to those positions. The upshot is that we can continue going this way. There is ample ability within the mayor's office and finance to run the finance department and to prepare a budget this summer. But the commission's expressed a desire to have a permanent full-time finance director, and quite frankly, we should have one. So if we can't get one by way of simple advertising and placing on the website, then this is a reasonable alternative, and the mayor would strongly urge the commission to approve this contract.
Do you know if the position puts any emphasis on finding someone with municipal finance background?
The contract. I'm sorry. Could you see who's shut down? The contract itself is just a boilerplate, essentially to hire somebody.
Mm.
The qualifications for the person are varied, and the qualifications are essentially established by the mayor through the requirements of the charter, the code, and then whatever other items the mayor believes would be appropriate for this position. For example, there would be a requirement for preferably for having an accounting degree. That may actually be a requirement, the person having an accounting degree, and preferably a CPA certification, which is separate from an accounting degree. A background in municipal law, in municipal finance and accounting, and municipal budgetary process would definitely be included in there. Obviously, it's weighted differently. If we get somebody with 30 years experience who's a retired CPA, you know what, that person can probably pick up the municipal intricacies on their own. If we get somebody with 5 years experience, we may want those 5 years to be in municipal finance. But
There's no
either way,
additional fees with this?
Excuse me?
There's no additional fees with this contract?
No, it's just that, the 20%.
Perfect. All right.
Either way, the goal at this point, when we obtain, if we obtain a candidate, would be to conduct something similar to this, but individually with individual commissioners and the candidate as a round robin. Essentially, everyone will get 30 minutes with the candidate to ask questions. We block them off for an entire day, and hopefully get commissioners in there on a one-to-one basis with the candidate to have personal interviews and to ask more detailed questions. That way, everybody shows up at the meeting with sufficient information to make an informed decision. Any further questions? No? Yes, ma'am.
This is the only company that's out there so far that we charge 20%. We don't have anything less than this.
We can inquire about that. 20% is the standard.
It's a standard.
It is the standard. It's like when Guillermo said, mentioned the 250. I know that 250 is the standard. Okay, moving on to the next item. This is a resolution of the City of Sweetwater modifying and adopting the engagement agreement with Rodriguez Trueba and Company, providing authorization, providing an effective date. Obviously, everyone knows Carlos Trueba, the city's auditor. His contract has expired, and he needs to have it renewed in order to conduct the audit for the year ending September 30, 2016. The contract that he has provided provides for the audit for 2016, 17, and 18. I believe 19 and 20, actually, it's a 5-year agreement. At this point, the mayor would request that the audit contract be approved with a 1-year extension, simply to provide for an audit for 2016 in order to enable the city at this point to decide whether it wishes to continue with this company or pursue other options. Are there any questions?
What are they charging the city?
$60,000 per year, not to exceed $60,000 per year. Is that correct? 75,000, essentially.
75?
Not to exceed 75,000.
Is that industry norm?
I do not know. Annie?
He changed his fee for a couple of years, and for this time he didn't want to increase
Mhm.
but, he has that fee for more than 5 years.
75?
75.
What we could do, I mean, we need to have this audit done, and as you're
Yeah.
aware, audits are, they're performed whenever they're performed.
Yeah.
They're always dated the last year of last day of the fiscal year.
Mhm.
So we need to get the audit for September 30, 2016
Yeah.
done. That audit actually should have been done by now. And one of the concerns that the mayor's office has with Mr. Trueba's office is the delay in preparing the audits. They have been, now, a lot of the delay, in all fairness, was a result of certain disarray that was found in the finance department. Bank accounts were not reconciled and
Yeah.
so forth. So the city's borne its share
Mhm.
of blame for that as well. But we need to get this one audit done. The idea.
For what fiscal year?
For one fiscal year.
For this
So
one?
It'll be just this one fiscal year, and then at that point.
16, 17? 15, 16.
15, 16.
Yeah.
So at that point, he can get started on the process now. And then at that point, we can evaluate whether the fee is correct, whether we wish to ask him to reduce it, whether we should go out and entertain bids at that point.
Yeah. So you want an extension of 1 year?
1 year. Well, he's wanting an extension of 5 years.
Right.
But the way that the resolution adopting the contract is written.
This
it will be-
resolution here?
Yeah, this resolution.
Okay.
It is for 1 year.
Well, why does it say going through 2020?
Is that his contract?
Yes, whereas the agreement provides for engagement for audits for years ended 2016 through 2020.
Right, hold on. If you read paragraph number 2, the attached agreement is modified to provide only for the retention for the year ended 2016.
Through 2020.
No, read paragraph 2 of the resolution. Not the number 2. Now therefore, at the bottom of the page.
Well, you should probably strike that 2020, right? I mean, you have
No,
two-
because that is describing the contract that's attached. And then the second paragraph, the paragraph after that one, the last whereas paragraph says that at present it is in the city's best interest to provide only a 1-year extension. Then numbered paragraph 2, the attached agreement is modified, so it's modified by virtue of the resolution to
Okay.
provide only for the retention for the year ended 2016, and is hereby adopted and approved as modified.
Okay, perfect.
So in that way, we don't have to go get another contract from him or whatever. This essentially does it.
Yeah, until he finishes.
Yeah, until we
And
finish
it's
it.
important that it gets done, like
Of course.
Ralph is saying.
Yeah.
It was behind for a while,
Yeah.
and this is probably one of the most critical aspects of the finance department that needs to be
Yeah.
shored up. By no fault of anybody's, it's just something that accrued over the years.
Yeah, I know it's a Florida statutory requirement.
Yes.
I will say though,
Some of the current CAFR and
yeah.
like that we really need to have up to date.
yeah, I'm not fully, satisfied or pleased with like their. I mean, I've worked with them directly. Great people.
Mhm.
Jerry. All of them, but year after year, they're outrageously late.
Yes,
and it's gotten to the point where, we are in violation of Florida statutory requirements.
Exactly.
Prevention of approval of funds for other agencies that give us funds.
Mhm.
And we're in violation of a lot of other audits just because this one hasn't been done timely year after year.
That's exactly correct. And one of the things that the administration is looking for in the next few years is to get us qualified, is to get it rated for bonds. We need to move in that direction at some point. And you can't get there if your audits are 2 and 3 years late. You just can't. I mean, that's the first question they ask.
So you're not going to get a rate.
Yeah,
If you're not current on your single audits, you're
Yeah.
not going to get
You
a
mind
rate.
if I jump in here?
Problem issuing any bonds whatsoever.
So that's the first question they would ask, and that's something that I don't know whether it's possible to do, or how difficult it would be, but I think it would be the right direction to head, because even if we do not achieve that in the near future, the steps that we take to shore up the finance, budgetary and accounting processes in the city in order to achieve a bond rating will by themselves be fantastic gains for the city. So that's something that we're trying to head in that direction.
I agree, but I have some issues and some reservations with this company. This company's been the auditor for the city of Sweetwater for 20 some odd years.
Mhm.
I think it's time we move on and part ways and start seeking a different organization that can meet our needs in a timely manner, in a statutory manner. You and I have worn the same hat. Actually, the three of us have worn the same hat, including the city attorney. And I've had several issues with that organization. I've seen them go from the yin to the yang, where we're good and we're not good. We don't have. We will and we won't. And what I need is an organization who's going to tell us what we have, what we don't have, what's missing. And at this point, I'm not happy with their services. So I would strongly recommend that we table that item and put that out to bid. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know how my colleagues feel.
Well,
But
that-
with 25 years in Sweetwater as an auditor, and our finances are subpar, I think that's a huge part of the problem.
That, Commissioner, is a huge concern for the mayor and concern for myself as well, and Annie has mentioned that as well. The rationale for this right now is to enable the work to start on the 2016 audit, get that finished, and then at that point, explore our options during the window that we have for the 2017 audit. However, it is up to the commission to decide at that point. I think the where you and I differ is whether we continue with this current contract now for this 1 year.
Right.
Annie, are we in a position, if we got another auditing firm, say in July, will we be in a position to transfer quickly to the to have them do the 2016 audit, or is there special knowledge that Mr. Tleba's firm has that they've acquired that would make them invaluable for this 1 year? You,
Have any kind of information. We get a qualified company that can come in and carry the order.
okay, well, that's not the answer I expected, but that's a good
Yeah,
answer.
the accounting rules in industry standard, they have to give, legally, they have to give all documentation to the new firm.
Of course.
I can tell you from firsthand knowledge that I've had issues with this organization. I can tell you firsthand knowledge that Grants has had issues with this organization. I can tell you firsthand knowledge that our CAFR reports were turned in late. We had issues with trim. We had issues with how much money do we have in certain accounts. At one point, they had no idea how many accounts we actually had.
I've had issues with them as well. I was livid when I saw and understood how late our 2015 audit was.
Right.
And what the deadlines were for that. I was livid when I found out about that. And also, there's the added question that that frankly the audit revealed information that the city's finances were in very questionable states, but the information was worded in such a tight, dense fashion that nobody really understood it, and so you sat the man down and asked him some very simple, pointed questions that had to be answered in English as opposed to accounting speak. I would think that the city were facing that level of financial burden without any reserves, and then that's what the issue came down to, the fact that there were no longer any reserves, that somebody in his office would have made mention of this in front of the city commission in a way that that was readily understood by a reasonably intelligent 20-year-old or something. I mean, and
What
that
do you got
was
against
not the
20-year-olds?
Excuse me?
What do you got against 20-year-olds?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
But anyway, so are there any other questions with regard to this item? Okay. The next one down is the appointment of the Planning and Zoning Board members. That's a code requirement by the individual commissioners. The mayor has no position on that. And then the resolution of the City Commission of the City of Sweetwater authorizing the proposed settlements in the matter of Juan Ramirez Pineda in the Southern District of Florida. That's been placed on there by the city attorney. It's a city attorney item. The mayor's office would encourage acceptance of the settlement terms and settlement of the matter. Guillermo, I don't know if you have anything further to add to that?
Not really.
Okay. Are there any further questions?
Yeah, to the city attorney, I'm I'm drafting some resolutions. Mr. Attorney, can I mention these items without having documentation? Since this is basically a workshop, would you recommend me mentioning them? Without having any documentation in front of them right now?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're talking about the potential add-on items?
Yeah.
No, of course. This public meeting was called for basically an agenda review.
Okay.
Those items are going to be incorporated into the agenda, so
Okay, great. So,
so you can basically alert the folks here, as to what is going to be added to the agenda on your behalf.
all right. May I, Ralph? I don't know if you have anything to
Please,
add.
go right ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
The first item that I'm going to add is the allocation of $5,000 from the Law Enforcement Trust Fund. As you guys know, we can't use law enforcement funds for anything other than law enforcement operations based on equitable sharing. And I'm going to be requesting to use the $5,000 from Law Enforcement Trust Fund for the police athletic soccer program that we did several years ago that I think was a success. We had about 130 kids. So I want to bring that to light. I'm going to also be bringing forward a resolution for a Power DMS system. Power DMS is a sole source provider from CFA, which is the Commission on Florida Accreditation. This is based on the accreditation that we're trying to achieve in the police department. And the Power DMS system is something sort of like a records management system, so to speak.
Basically what that
It
does-
shows proof of accomplishing those prerequisites. So, Chief, you can expand on that.
Basically, what the Power DMS system does is it has a structured way and a manner of measuring training and keeping track of all the training. One of the biggest challenges that you have in any organization such as this one and in any law enforcement organization is ensuring that your officers are trained and documented for a number of reasons. And the city attorney will tell you one of the biggest issues we've had recently is the lack of documentation on the training on some cases. This will ensure that every officer is accountable for every piece of training on an annual basis, monthly basis, daily basis as required by state law and by the department guidelines, rules, and regulations. So this will actually help in many ways. First of all, making sure that your officers are well trained. Second of all, it also mitigates some liability by having them accountable for their training. So this is not something that is uncommon. It's widely used by the state. It was being done by hand and scanned manually. It's an archaic way of doing it. This is something that will provide efficiency, better training, and accountability for the officers. And again, lessen the liability on the part of the city when it comes to justifying training on the officer's part.
Yeah, I was the accreditation manager when I was with the police department, and the chief and I basically spearheaded that. It was extremely difficult to move the program forward without the Power DMS system. Our sister city, Doral, uses the Power DMS system. Other municipalities that have achieved accreditation use the Power DMS system. It's only meant to give us industry standard and best practices. So I'm going to be requesting to use, again, state seizure forfeiture funds, not to exceed $15,000 for the Power DMS system, which is to purchase the system and to renew recurring for the following 2 years. And again, those funds can't be used for anything other than law enforcement purposes. So does anybody have any questions on that? No.
How much is it? 15,000?
15,000, not
Per
to exceed
year?
15,000. No,
No.
it's 15,000 total, and that includes 3 years. So basically, 3 years buys us, $5,000 each year.
Yeah, well, you have an initial fee of $3,600 roughly, and the balance, there's also an additional initial fee, and then the rest is recurring fee. You have a total of 3 years compounded. Just so you have an idea of the volume of paperwork that goes into this system, just for the accreditation portion alone, you probably have 2,000 or 3,000 pieces of documentation that have been uploaded into the system, aside from your general rules and regulations, plus your mandates and your and all the standards that have to be met. So it's an enormous amount of documentation that goes up there. And then again, this program is best practices, best standards, and probably, like you said, it's sole source. And it's sanctioned by both the state and supported by FTLE.
Do you have like a quick walkthrough, either
Tutorial?
PowerPoint or something like that you can send me?
I don't, but I can bring you a Doral policeman, and they can actually pull up the Power DMS system, and you can actually see it.
That's cool.
We can do that, and if you'd like, if you want, if any commissioner wants to do it on an individual basis, or if you'd like to, I'd be more than happy to make that arrangement also.
Yeah, let's do
That
that.
way it doesn't.
Yeah, because I
encompass too much
can't,
time.
but I know we can bring a Doral cop. to
Yeah,
do
I
it.
can
You
make
see the
arrangements.
importance
Just
of
get
it.
together with me when you at your leisure, and I'll make arrangements to either have you go over there, have somebody come over here, open up the whole system, and show you how it works. Just to give you an idea, you have email, okay? In this case, say for example, you're due for training in, I don't know, traffic stops. This will automatically send you an email to David Barrero. Let's say your training is due on or before June 15th. And it'll keep sending you alerts until you actually finish that training. Then that will automatically get uploaded to the system once you're done. The beauty of it is you can start it, stop it, start it again, and it won't interrupt your duty hours, which is amazing for us. So at their downtime, the officers can actually be doing the training while they're working. Whereas you would have to do, say, a 40-hour mandatory training, you'd have to send them off for a week. One of the things that I took advantage of was the fact that FDLE has something similar, only limited to the 40-hour mandatory training online. I had every single officer in my department do the mandatory training online at zero cost to the city. This is a multiplier for training, which you really need.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say is, if you haven't already allocated those funds, you know, we do have grant funds that we receive on formula every year from the county and from the state, about $6,000 a year. If you haven't already named those funds, you know, I'm sure that this would qualify.
They have been already.
Yeah, we've allocated every single penny we've gotten. We've allocated to whatever we can scrounge up. But yeah, we use the fund, Commissioner. Trust me, we have made a lot with very little. We've made things work with a lot less.
Yeah.
And that, by the way, thanks to you, because a lot of the grants that we got, you cooperated with when you were working in grants. We have continued to use the JAG grants. We've been current and up to date on everything without any violations whatsoever.
Perfect.
So we've been in good shape.
So Ian's doing a good job with that.
And we're working hard.
Good.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. He really is.
So, anybody else have any questions pertaining to that?
No, I was gonna explain him that he lost part of his mark.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I ate it.
All right.
I don't know what happened.
Rolled off there.
So, this next item is a personal item, I think, for all of us. It is donating $35,000 from the general fund to the Little Admiral Foundation. I don't think I need to explain that to anybody. You're either for it or not. I think everybody is for it. The Little Admiral Foundation provides services for 250 kids in our city. Not only Taekwondo for confidence building and anti-bullying, dance for our girls in our city. You know, just basically reestablishing, reaffirming respect and self-worth. What the foundation does in the city of Sweetwater is unsurmountable. I tip my hat to the foundation. I think it's time that we start doing more for the foundation. I know that the previous commission had the intentions to help the foundation. I think there were some obstacles there, but I hope that you guys can look at that and see the importance of what the foundation does for our youth. Keeps all these kids off the street. So that's my intent. Anybody have any questions?
Is it budgeted?
In general funds? No.
Okay.
It's not a budgeted line item.
I don't see why we would do that then. We don't have money for it. Maybe in the next budget, fiscal year, I would support that.
Okay.
It's
Anybody
a
have
lot-
any other
It's
questions?
a lot of money.
No, what do you think I have with? I speak.
No,
Not the
my
agenda.
question you already did,
Yeah.
so.
In the next fiscal year, I would strongly co-sponsor that. But if we don't have the monies budgeted for it,
It'll bring me to my next item, which is how we're going to budget that. So let me pull it up. Occupational license fees in the city of Sweetwater. Per charter, we can raise the occupational license fee 5%. Last year, we received $700,000 from our occupational license fees. 5% of that is $35,000. What a coincidence. Everybody cool with that?
has this been assessed by our finance director,
We don't have a director.
our finance department?
I had a brief conversation with Commissioner Villanueva on the occupational license issue. The numbers are consistent with what the projections should be for the next fiscal year with regards to the revenues on the occupational licenses. I think it's a modest amount to increase, and would offset the expenditure that he is proposing. But yes, to concur with his assessment, the numbers and the projections should be there.
These are occupational licenses from businesses.
Yeah, what happens is every business in the city of Sweetwater, I'll give you an example, the Latin Cafeteria pays $160 a year for their occupational license fee they have to pay every year. Per the charter, we can raise the occupational license fee up to 5%. We can't raise it higher than that. The city doesn't have a strategic plan, and part of something that I'd like to propose in the future is creating a strategic plan where we are slowly increasing our fees. For example, an occupational license fee of $160, raising it 5% is $8. So it's not a huge impact. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to raise fees in the business community so we can lower fees in the residential community. So essentially, create a system so we can lower the millage rate.
So a 5% increase in occupational license fees would equal to $35,000 extra a year in
Yes.
occupational license fees.
Yes, revenues.
That's not taking into account any new businesses that come online. In
So
the
that
next,
this would be reflecting October 1st.
Yes.
However, though, I want to caution you, you do have to make the modification prior to the beginning of the fiscal year because collections for the occupational licenses are not necessarily consistent with your fiscal year calendar.
Yeah, which brings me back to the previous item, to the donation of $35,000 to the Little Abner Foundation. We have a pending possible litigation matter that needs to be cured. We would need a waiver of liability from the Little Abner Foundation to basically cure any potential future lawsuits, and that would be and the reason for that is that we had a resolution in the past, correct me if I'm wrong, where we were offering them monies.
Commissioner Villanueva, because again, because of the specter of potential litigation, I want to go ahead and make sure that we limit our discussion on that matter. But what I can, to your point, there's an agreement that was approved by the commission with the Little Abner Foundation, and just like in any agreement, there are certain obligations and there are certain, that both parties have, to the extent that there's any, that there could be any potential liability on the city relative to that agreement. I'm saying, I think it will be
Prudent.
It will be incredibly prudent to, if any donation is contemplated, that at some point some kind of global release is included to make sure that that nothing else pops up later on. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, so you see that I'm connecting everything together. Obviously, the allocation of $35,000, now we know where it's going to come from. Instead of not having funding, I have other items where we're going to be generating more funding, and I appreciate your concerns. But now you can make a more informed decision.
Yeah, I would just like for those numbers to be ran through by our finance department. I think all budgetary items need to be reviewed by our finance department and approved and confirmed by them.
No, absolutely. Again, these are preliminary projections that we discussed briefly today. However, we will verify the projections on paper in black and white and make them available to you.
Perfect, thank you.
So you can make an educated decision.
Okay, Commissioner, when you finish, let me speak.
Speak, sir.
And this moment is not happy, it doesn't have terrible. Never did they. Look.
What?
Yellow, white, Venetian black, terrible. You know, maybe have pollution in here, color black, carpet, terrible. I need remodelation. Robertico, any grant for remodelation, pero no next year. Looking, terrible, for many years, never remodelation. I don't know why is it black. Maybe pollution. I don't know. But maybe pollution. Look. Venetian blind. Wayne. Remodelation. Doctor. It's very good. I never started in the day. Now look, it's terrible. Yeah, right. Terrible, doctor. Terrible.
Commissioner, we'll be very happy to put that in the budget for for October 1.
I need.
Yeah.
Knife in the record.
Okay.
No estoy diciendo que la ciudad necesita nuestro salón remodelación. Tenemos una alfombra que lleva años. Tenemos una Venetian Blind que llevan años. Tenemos unas salidas de los aires o de lo que fuese negra que pudiera ser polución. No sé, pero puede ser polución. La alfombra, terrible. Yo espero, con el favor de Dios, que esto quede en récord y que quizás algunos de los que están aquí, los nuevos comisionados y Daria. Robertico, tú que pides gran, por favor, necesitamos remodelación. Dichoso nada más. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll definitely take that into account. I totally agree with you. This chambers, in fact, all of City Hall is an embarrassment. It should be remodeled. Absolutely.
I agree. Which brings me to my next item. I'm going to be requesting a resolution to lift the moratorium placed by the previous administration on expenditures, particularly the motor unit. We were having budgetary issues. I think the commission, was trying to salvage finances. I think that now we're in a much better position. We have more money coming in based on millage, and I think it's time to start considering the traffic safety of our residents, our patrons. And I'm going to be presenting a resolution for the lease of 4 motorcycles from Harley-Davidson Petersons for no more than $60,000. I'm going to be providing supporting documentation on lease agreements with various options. There are 3 options. And I just want to bring the commission, bring this to light on the commission. Anybody have any questions?
60 grand, what, per year?
60,000, no more than 60,000 per year, I believe, yes. And this is coming from State Seizure Forfeiture Fund, not general funds.
And what does that include in the 60 grand?
For motorcycles, depending on the option chosen by the administration, it's 600, 650, or 750 a month for the motorcycle, to include all the bells and whistles, saddlebags, maintenance, so on and so forth. Usually we've gone for the 650 a month package times 4 motorcycles and whatnot. What I'm trying to do is have this item pass for now, so we can budget it in the next fiscal budget come October 1st, which is why I'd like to allocate monies from State Seizure Forfeiture for now, until we can collectively, as a body, look at our finances, look at what our millage rate is going to be, and that way we can make an informed decision. But obviously we need traffic safety in our city. As a former policeman, I can tell you that our accidents have gone up. Our accidents with injuries have gone up. Our speeders have gone up. Our hit and runs have gone up. We've had some traffic fatalities in our city, and all this has to do with traffic enforcement, traffic awareness. I think our residents need to slow down. I think our residents need to be more informed, and we need to engage our residents. The motorcycles are less frightening than a police vehicle. Some people are actually scared of police vehicles, and the chief and his command staff are doing an excellent job in bridging the gap with our community and our community policing program. But I like to bring our motors back. So, anybody have any questions?
Are these funds available in our current budget?
And State Seizure Forfeiture? Yes.
And forfeiture, yeah. Yes, and the forfeiture.
Yeah.
So it's going to be 15 grand a year
No, for motorcycles,
per motorcycle.
roughly.
And that's just throughout the rest of this fiscal year, or for one
The rest of
365 calendar.
That's for the rest of this fiscal year. So basically, let's just say for the sake of argument that the administration decides to choose the $650 a month package times 4 motorcycles is $2,600 times 12 comes out to 31,200. Okay, so I need to adjust those numbers.
So it'd be 60 grand for 4 months.
Right. So no, it's more. No, it's actually per year.
No, the numbers are 650 per bike per month, and the idea of what the commissioner, I believe, wanted to do was bridge the gap from here to October the 1st if possible. Last year the motorcycles were budgeted, but as a result of a financial issues, obviously a decision was made, and the time was the right decision. I think that going forward in the next fiscal year, based on the way that the finances look, we'd like to explore bringing the motor unit back for a number of reasons. First of all, it's a force multiplier here with the traffic that's ongoing and the congestion that we have, like we discussed in the past. It's not a want, it's a need. You need to be able to maneuver through traffic to get to your different incidents at your peak hours of traffic. And as you can see, if you read the article that was in the paper, I believe it was this morning or yesterday, one of these days in the last couple of days, the traffic in Miami is second only to San Francisco, if I'm not mistaken, as far as congestion is concerned. So it's not getting any better. And really, the easiest way to get to point A, from point A to point B in any jurisdiction are the motors. I would like for you guys to entertain this, think about it. I think it's for the benefit of the community, and it's a benefit for our residents.
So are we proposing doing this just as a Band-Aid until October 1st, at which point you want to purchase
Well,
some?
yeah, it's a stopgap, basically, a stopgap in order to bridge towards October the 1st, and if possible, budgeted. If not, we will explore continuing to use the forfeiture funds, even though we would like to use them for other things, but if necessary, we would. However, I believe that based on what we've seen so far, I think our budget looks a little bit brighter this year than it did last year.
Yeah, I do need to make an adjustment, and I'll call you later. My error, my mathematical equation is wrong, and I think we see that. I think we're going to say the same thing. So it's not 60,000. It's 31,000 something. So we'll probably do it at like 34,000, not to exceed $34,000 or $35,000. And the only reason why we always over budget is because we end up not utilizing those $4,000. That's just the just in case clause.
How much would it cost to buy one of these bikes?
You're probably
Depending.
looking all in close to $20,000 per bike.
Per bike, and that's if it's brand new. If it's used, then you
Personally,
have to work
I'd prefer to do that. If running one bike on a full year will cost you $7,600, you can buy one for 15.
That's a completely decision that I leave up to the commission, whatever you believe is the best. That we would have to budget for R&M, which isn't a lot. In the past, they've been leased. Most agencies are going towards the leasing program only because it's all inclusive, including the tires. But again, I leave it. There are different mindsets to this. For example, in the city, the mindset was to go away from renting and leasing, and they did purchase vehicles.
Yeah.
Again, it's purely a decision that has to be made. It's a financial decision that has to be made based on what exposure you want to have, or whether it's a long-term liability or short-term liability. It's all up to you.
Yeah. Also, I think we should also explore, in addition to, not in replacement of. I know that one of our bikes was recently donated to us, which is a great move on the mayor. Approach some of these businesses, these new developers who want to come into the city, and ask them, kindly, can you, in addition to, your development, can you help support law enforcement in donating a bike,
And we have, and I've been working diligently to do that. As you know, over the last 2 years, we've gotten 23 vehicles donated, a bike, and a slew of equipment that otherwise we wouldn't have gotten. We are working with our public and private partners to try to get further donations, but as a result of the issues with the bikes and the budget and so forth, a lot of people have been hesitant over the last few months to engage in anything progressive like that. We did get one buy-in, which was from Cabo Flats. I want to thank them, and Cartel. They were amazing in cooperating with us, and they're still willing to work with us. As a matter of fact, we have events constantly with them. So the answer to your question is, in short, yes, we are exploring those options and those possibilities.
We'd like to have one. Thank you.
Cuento tu chief.
Sure.
If I can just, 'cause it dovetails with what he said. Yes, Cabo Flats and Cartel donated 2 bikes, but I do want to go on record as saying that a portion of the acquisition price was borne by senior officers of the administration, personally, with personal funds and personal checks as a donation to the city.
You mean when the chief paid and the assistant chief paid and the major paid out of their own checkbook? Is that what you're referring to?
And the mayor and the chief of staff. We all paid
I'm sorry. I'm a little biased with the police department.
I
Sorry, sir.
understand.
Congratulations.
I just
Thank
want
you
to
for
make
paying.
sure that people are aware that, we felt so strongly about this. Each of us ponied up $250 of personal funds from personal accounts before that. I'm
I
sorry,
appreciate
Commissioner?
that.
Just a quick question. Most polling units are working 8 hours a day,
Yes.
full time.
Well, they're working,
The city, no doing off-duty work.
they're doing blended work, they're doing both, but they'll work full-time for the city and on their own time for the escorts. They don't work on city time doing escorts. That was,
But they're providing service to the city
8 hours a day. Yes.
full units.
yes, ma'am. The bikes,
That's my concern.
as a matter of fact, I'll go a step further. Even those that are on motors are still doing motor functions in their motor uniforms and working in vehicles.
No, my concern is to give service to the city.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the challenges are that, they are older bikes, so they have been, having to be serviced a couple of times, so they have been down. We had one officer that had one minor incident, but again, bikes are something that if you have any minor incident, it has to be held to that much higher standard. So you can't put a bike back in service unless it's 100%. It can't be 95%. So the answer is yes. We're doing everything we can to make sure that the residents receive 100% of the benefit from the bikes.
Chief, on a
Question similar.
Yes, sir.
Now traffic from Cibora start 109, 107. How many people go to Forest Trail, go to 107? Then
One of the things we're working on, Commissioner, I'm glad you brought that up. We are working on an aggressive project to bring speed bumps into the areas that are most congested and most trafficked into the city, among them the 105th Place corridor.
In front of Commissioner Holtz's house.
Yes, we've done an internal study, and we have come up with a proposal that we look to bring to the commission in the near future, where we are going to use that as a pilot program and install 3 traffic humps to ease the traffic speed in that area.
this motor, Marquito say, the commissioner.
No, Padilla Maquito.
Muchas gracias, Marquito.
Eso sí.
For the city,
Yeah.
not for escort.
Well, remember,
Porque tráfico está related.
absolutely, they'll be working full-time for the city, and on their off time, they will be allowed to work off duty like other
You know
officers.
why? When you're cruising 109, close. No, it's impossible close. You need policemen for the.
Well, there's a combination of problems there on 109, and
Possibly.
we're working with Robert on a couple of things on 109 Avenue. You're gonna need some other traffic enforcement devices. You have a couple of challenges there because of the circles that are in place. You have large vehicles that are coming through there that they're going right through traffic. Your yield signs are not effective. So we're exploring other traffic control devices that hopefully with the Tiger Grant and other projects that Robert has coming down the pike, we're gonna be able to adapt certain devices there that will alleviate the problems.
By design.
By design, correct.
You clarify this motor for working 8 hours in the city.
Everybody's required to work 8 hours a day for the city, depending on what their shift is, full-time.
What time working with the escort?
It depends, that varies. That varies depending on when the escorts are. Remember, they're gonna dedicate 8 hours of their time to the city irrespective of what shift they work. Some may work afternoons, some may work days, some work blended schedules. So you may have an officer that comes in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You may have an officer that comes in at 7 o'clock in the morning.
And they work until 11?
Some do. We have different shifts.
Motorcycle until 11 o'clock?
We have motorcycles that work very late, believe it or not, sometimes. It depends. It depends what their schedules are.
That's dangerous.
Why? They need the city.
But you know something, unfortunately, sometimes they have to work because
I
the
don't
rush
know,
hours
2
are
or
later.
3 or 4,
So you
I
need
don't
to
know.
have people out there working during the rush hours. It's,
I don't know, 2
even on
or 3 or
weekends.
4.
Even some people out there don't like working weekends. Unfortunately, policemen have to work weekends. And if you come,
I know.
if you come out here on Sunday, Saturday, I'm out here Saturdays and Sundays, and sometimes the traffic is horrific.
I remember a long time, commissioner, you say, wait another 6 months.
Yeah, it's effective October 3rd, 2017.
See,
Yeah, that's the hold they put on. Because we were waiting for the budget,
The
the new
budget.
budget, 17, 18.
Right, she was waiting for the fiscal year budget, which is
Exactly.
very
We didn't
prudent.
know where we were standing.
Correct. There was no clear projection financially where you were standing at that point, and that was a prudent move. We recognize it and we understand that. And again, that's why this is a hybrid plan, a stopgap plan to meet the needs while taking into account the financial burdens that it brings onto the city.
este momento igual cosa en yo departamento policial, 9, 7 or 8,
I'm sorry, Commissioner. No-
in this year,
37 million.
in this year.
How many billions?
How many did we say? We
Sí.
budgeted? We're in the middle of proposing the budget now. I can tell you that last fiscal year, we reduced the budget by almost $3 million, if I'm not mistaken. We reduced the police
budget,
budget
how many, 7?
about 7.2, 7.3, I want to say close to that, but we reduced it overall from when we came in by $3 million.
Maybe next year you have
And also at the front desk, is that what you're saying?
We are
one
budgeting,
dispatcher.
well, they're not called dispatchers, we are going to have.
Clerks.
They're not gonna be dispatchers, we're gonna have clerks at the front desk, to meet the needs of the community. But yes, we are budgeting to have clerks, not dispatchers.
I
They're not-
received many complaints.
And we are addressing them, they're gonna be,
You wait.
Yeah, yeah.
you're gonna have them there.
Close.
We're budgeting for,
See, chief,
we are budgeting to have clerks at the front desk, not dispatchers.
please.
We're budgeting to have clerks. Yeah, we're gonna have them there for you as of, hopefully the beginning of the
When
fiscal year.
dispatcher, you pay my money, no?
No, what happens is, because of everything that we're doing to try to bring everything to accreditation standards, we do not dispatch calls anymore, so you cannot label them dispatchers.
Yeah, we have to eliminate the word dispatcher.
You have to eliminate the word dispatcher and just label them something else.
Clerk.
Ahora voy con una españolada.
Tienen
Quita la
que-
palabra.
No me digan más viejito y que estoy acabado y que estoy destruido, por favor. Me han llamado de, perdón, me han llamado de enfrente, hay unos señores que me llaman siempre. ¡Guaso! No, tú no eres guaso. No, yo no soy guaso, guaso. No, si me han dicho que usted era un viejito que se está cayendo.
Ok,
Eso porque no te conocen.
Dice, esa propaganda te la han hecho en la calle, guaso.
sí.
Y esto lo estoy diciendo oficialmente.
No te han
Todavía
visto,
está hablando.
no te han visto
Pero yo
cuando
soy
te,
viejito, chico.
no te han visto cuando te pones bravo.
No, ya eso desapareció.
¿Qué?
Viene un nombre guaso, nuevo.
Sí.
Nuevo a una ciudad nueva. Un nuevo hombre. Y un nuevo hombre.
All right, does anybody else have any?
El hombre nuevo que yo recibí como cristiano.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pero
I'm just,
espero que hagan algo para remodelar esto, señor.
Sí, estoy de
Lleva
acuerdo.
30 años que no hacen nada y más también.
Yeah, estoy de acuerdo.
2 points,
If
real
the
quick.
commissioner's done, we're done.
Eso es enfermedad, eso es
Chief, if you,
polución. Y está en récord. Porque alguien se enferma.
if you can, Chief, I'm just really curious to see on a tangent.
I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
I'm just really curious to see on a tangent here. What are the numbers comparing city by city in Dade County of the population of people in the city compared to the number of officers?
Okay, interesting you should bring that up, because one of the studies that we did coming in was the staffing study. A staffing study was done here many years ago based on what your 2010 census revealed, which was that you had approximately 20,000 residents. What they failed to take into account was the delta of 60,000 transient commuters on a daily basis. So when you did your calculation for services, or they did the calculations for services back then, based on the 2010 census, the factor that should have been used should have been 80,000 people, not 20,000. So in answering that, we're working on an updated staff study based on those numbers. And what you'll find is you're going to be deficient probably 25%. And I'm not just saying in police, I'm saying overall citywide, staffing-wise, in order to meet the needs of the community, not only the residents, but your commuters.
Chief, good question. I did a little research on what the correct ratio or whatnot it is. It's usually done off residents, correct, not transients?
It usually is. The problem that you have here, you have an anomaly, which is Dolphin Mall. And Dolphin Mall attracts either one way or the other 60,000 commuters on a daily basis, which is a huge delta that you couldn't fathom when they were building it, because you never expected that. Remember, Dolphin Mall, I want to say, is either second or third only to Walt Disney World in the state of Florida with regards to transient commuters coming in and out, which is a factor that probably nobody could have, made any awareness of at the time, because who figured you're going to have 60,000 people visiting a venue out west here in our jurisdiction? I mean, you just couldn't fathom it. I can understand where the error came in. It's all a matter of just adjusting to the times and adjusting to the factors. I think we can do it. We have some ideas in place that we're going to bring forward. But again, right now we're making do. We're doing more with less. But again, the numbers have to be tweaked. The study has to be updated, and we're in the process of doing that now.
But if I can get those numbers on a per city basis, and if we can base it
On a
off
per
of,
capita basis?
let's base it off of residents, and then as
Okay.
well as include the transient.
Absolutely. We'll get that done for you.
That's
No
great.
problem.
Thanks. And then the second thing I was going to say about your item, I know I see that it's useful. I support the use of our motor unit. I think it's almost self-funded. But if we're going to spend $30,000 upwards of that, I think I wouldn't support leasing it or fleecing it. Is what I would say. I would much rather take those 30 grand. I would support investing them into actual purchase of 2 motorcycles.
Yeah, and that's a good point. The only issue with that is, motormen, need brand new equipment. And I know you want to leave, and I'll keep it brief. Motormen,
Sounds like I didn't know it's gonna take so long.
I'm sorry.
I'm supposed to be a place at 5 o'clock. Don't worry about it. Go ahead.
Motormen need new equipment. Motorcycles are not like vehicles. The issue is, for example, in our previous R&M budget, in our repair and maintenance budget, we had $180,000, which was extremely high. After the third year, after the second year, now that motorcycle starts breaking down. So you can purchase that motorcycle, and obviously you bought it, and now more years go by, you literally have to spend more money to maintain it, as opposed to the lease, which is after 3 years, 4 years, whatever the lease agreement is, give me a brand new motorcycle, and you just continue paying the same amount, as opposed to after 7 years, you've paid the $650 a month. Now you have an old beat down motorcycle that you have to scrap now. And now it has to go to commission and basically say, oh, we want to scrap this. Can we scrap it? Yeah, it's not worth anything. Go ahead and throw it away. As opposed to just having a brand new item.
What's the lifespan of a motorcycle?
As a police motorcycle is different than a regular motorcycle. I don't know, Chief, 4 years?
No, you're gonna go based on mileage, and the mileage is obviously rougher on a police bike. On the average, when you end a lease on any of these bikes, you're gonna be probably in the 20,000 mile range. At that point, the resale value is down to about, I want to say $12,000 at best. The bike is once they strip them, and that's getting a really good price on them. So that's what you got to gauge.
So 20,000 miles a bike is worth 12 grand. That's a pretty good value, though. I mean, it only depreciated 3 grand.
Harleys hold their value. Harleys do hold their value.
It's 22 for a brand new Harley. 22,000.
2,000. He said 15.
Did you ever say 15,000 for a brand new Harley?
No, about 19,000.
19.
19,000.
May I?
Of course.
Un chico Villanueva, usted Villanueva, usted es comisionado.
No,
Y David Borrero,
Dime.
comisionado.
Dime.
Yo sé que David Borrero es medio serio, ¿sabes? No, mira, for a long time before I talked to Trujillo.
Oh, God.
Trujillo said to me, last year I put in $12 million for bicycle. I said, what? Oh, it's called Vito. Many times I talked to Trujillo again. He said, again, $3 million for bicycle, Trujillo. I say, I put in. I got to you, but you got to go. And 4 or 5 times I have communication. I don't know. My petition $3 million for us. Sidewalk, the trip. I know it's coming or not coming. But it's my petition.
Okay.
One day, one extension. Go ahead.
All right,
Another day,
I love you.
Me.
I love you.
but
Does anybody have any
$3
other
million
questions
for my citizens.
pertaining to
That
this
represent
item?
the $3
I just have
million
one more so we can get out of here.
citizens.
Just very quickly, so we can draft the item accordingly. So the item basically lifts the existing moratorium and authorizes the lease of 4 motorcycles. The initial funding for the gap time of 4 months.
Right, 5 months, not to exceed $32,000.
Well, because you would have part of June, July, August, and September.
Well, you wouldn't be able to even acquire them for at least 30 to 45 days.
Exactly.
So let's bring it down to $15,000.
You can
from
bring it.
seizure forfeiture.
You can bring it down to
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, because it will be far less than that.
I'll talk to you offline about the numbers. The final item that I have is our criminal investigative section office located at 1414 Northwest 107 Avenue. I know at one point we eliminated the funding for that lease, and the administration had hopes of bringing the criminal investigative section to the mall that we have next to Ruido's in the passport office. I will tell you, as a former police lieutenant and a command staff member, that by doing so, we're actually going to be hindering the city's ability to generate revenue in terms of parking here in the city of Sweetwater. We have our 2 parking meters, and our 2 parking meters are generating roughly, and Ralph, you can correct me if I'm wrong, $60,000 to $70,000 a year. Is that correct?
Yes, that is approximately correct.
Now, by having our detectives and our 8 detective vehicles parked in front, we're now limiting the ability to generate more funding, not to mention investigations and internal affairs needs to be separate from the police department. We're having an issue with space, with parking as a whole. I think we need to start adding as opposed to subtracting. We're trying to move forward and become a professional law enforcement organization as far as accreditation is concerned. When we have the FBI, when we have FDLE, ATF, Homeland Security, when we have these investigative meetings, we're having our detectives and our command staff are having those meetings off-site at our CIS office. So I want to propose a lease, month-to-month lease, up to December 31st of this year, from June to December 31st. I want to commend the chief. I don't know how you did it, but the owner of that establishment, of that building, has agreed not to charge us for the last, how many months?
Five.
6 months.
Six
5,
months?
6 months.
I don't know how you did that. And the funds will not be dispersed until December 31st, which means we're going to be at that building, if approved by the commission, from now until December 31st, and the owner of the building will not receive the monies from June to December until December 31st, and those funds will be allocated from state seizure forfeiture. So again, just to go back, state seizure forfeiture funds cannot be used for anything other than law enforcement functions. These are monies that are generated from the Sweetwater Police Department, either state seizure forfeiture, federal seizure forfeiture, LETF, or treasury account. We can't use that for anything else other than law enforcement purposes. So rather than take away, I'd like to add, I'd like to maintain what we have over there. It's a very professional environment. I can tell you I was a lieutenant of that unit. I was the lieutenant that basically created that office with a previous command staff. And that office is now even more professional. We're even more so in compliance with CFA. And if we take away that office and we bring those officers here, those 8 detectives here, we have nowhere to house them. We have nowhere to interview and interrogate defendants. We have no way to conduct investigations or planning. There's no way to park. We're actually going to hinder our revenues and our ad valorums by parking them in front of the passport office, and now we're losing funding. So I'm going to be presenting that item. Does anybody have any questions? Good game.
Okay, well, with that said, thank you everybody for showing up. I think this has been an extremely useful meeting. We hope to have these in the future. And we'll be seeing all of you. And if we don't see you tomorrow, we'll see you Monday.